This event is kind of the second side event at this Japan pavilion, and then we are very much exciting now. Just the Japanese prime ministers are here on the ground level, and so a lot of crowd. Okay, so let's start, and then I would like to invite Ms. Segawa Keiko, Deputy Director General of Global Environmental Bureau of Ministry of Environment Japan, for her opening remarks. So please come to the podium.
Thank you very much, and ladies and gentlemen, good evening and good morning and good afternoon from Glasgow. I'm Segawa Keiko, Deputy Director General for the Global Environmental Affairs in the Ministry of the Environment, Japan. Thank you very much for your joining this very important side event, leading efforts towards the achievement of zero carbon cities. I would like to say a few introductory words on behalf of the Ministry of the Environment of Japan. Japan has declared a commitment to carbon neutrality by 2050 and also committed to the goal of 46% reduction in emission of GHGs from the 2013 levels in fiscal year 2030. Furthermore, Japan will continue strenuous efforts in this challenge to meet the lofty goal of cutting its emission by 50%. Moreover, Japan has committed to support the transition toward decarbonization in Asia. Our Prime Minister, Mr. Kishida, is now here, and you can hear some of the voices of the welcoming of Mr. Kishida's the remarks, because he made an announcement in the ASEAN-Japan Climate Change Action Agenda 2.0 to realize the decarbonization and the resilient society in ASEAN region at the ASEAN-Japan Summit just last week. And also the Prime Minister Kishida joins the COP26, as you know and you feel or you listen. And in addition to provide climate finance, both public and private, totaling $60 billion over the next 5 years from 2021 to 2025. To realize the ambitious commitment of national governments, it's crucial to put in place a variety of measures in accordance with size or type of the areas for decarbonization, ranging from state or country level and to city or block level. In Japan, 479 municipalities and cities covering 88% of Japan's population have declared their commitments to decarbonization by 2050 under the name of the Zero Carbon Cities. In order to achieve these commitments, national government formulated a regional decarbonized roadmap, and the national government and the local governments are working together to create more than 100 decarbonization leading areas by 2030 and expand them to other cities through the decarbonization domino effect. In order to deploy the decarbonization domino effect toward overseas, my ministry has been supporting Japanese local governments to transfer their experiences to overseas cities through international city-to-city collaboration program. We also collaborate with OECD for supporting countries and cities in their efforts to develop and implement their climate plans, strategies, and policy instruments. By these initiatives, Japan will trigger the decarbonization domino effect, both domestically and internationally. Today, we will introduce some local efforts from municipal governments in Japan and overseas. We very much hope that this program will be quite meaningful for all over the world. In addition to today's discussion, we plan to discuss national and municipal cooperation and international collaboration at another side event, which will be held in the morning of November 10th so that we hope to see you at that event as well. In conclusion, I hope that this seminar will be an opportunity to encourage decarbonization efforts and lead to new partnerships. Thank you very much for your attention. Banyak terima kasih and je vous remercie beaucoup de votre attention. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Segawa-san, Ms. Segawa-san, for your very talentful final remarks. Greetings, and thank you so much. And so, just a housekeeping announcement for the participant by Zoom application. If you like to listen in Japanese, please use the channel 1 for Japanese language. And then for English language for channel 2. So, 日本語でお聞きの方はチャンネル1番をお選びください。
If you're listening to Japanese, it's channel 1.
This session. So now I also would like to invite the opening remarks by Mr. Takeuchi Yoshiaki, Deputy Secretary General of OECD. So over to you.
Well, thank you very much, Your Excellencies, Deputy Director General Segawa-san, mayors, governors, ladies and gentlemen. It is my great honor and pleasure to welcome you to this COP26 side event, leading efforts towards the achievement of zero-carbon cities. This is a result of an excellent collaboration between the OECD and the government of Japan, the local government for sustainability, and Institute for Global Environmental Strategies. Today's event focuses on the vital role of cities in tackling the global climate challenge, and I would like to acknowledge and congratulate Japan's leadership in taking this agenda forward. Governments from all the corners of the world are meeting now at COP26 to address the challenges of climate change. The impact of those challenges are not the same across the countries, but they also vary within countries, between cities and rural areas, and even across cities. And why do cities matter? Because cities are places where the climate change is felt the most. The OECD metropolitan region accounts for 60% of the greenhouse gas emission. And this 60% is likely to grow as people throughout the planet continues to migrate to the cities. And our urban dwellers are also increasingly feeling those impacts in other ways too. Since 1970, the number of days in a year unique air conditioning has increased by almost 25%. However, we also see encouraging developments. Cities are taking innovative and ambitious measures to mitigate and adapt climate change. For example, more than 10,000 subnational governments, many of them cities, covering more than 140 countries, have committed to their own climate and energy targets and actions. The carbon neutrality targets of Copenhagen, Helsinki, Stockholm, and Sydney are all more ambitious than those of their national governments. 5 years ago, Oslo established a climate budget setting sector-specific greenhouse gas emission ceilings. This is paving the way towards the city's 95% greenhouse gas emission reduction target by 2030. Tokyo, 10 years ago, introduced the first in the world urban cap and trade programs, Toshigata no cap trade system, including mandatory targets for its biggest emitters. The OECD is ramping up its work to support ambitious, effective, and measurable climate action in cities. For example, our program on a territorial approach to climate action and resilience, which benefits from strong support from the government of Japan, aims to support governments in 3 ways. First, the program strengthens the evidence base by developing granular and comparable data and delivers the tools needed to monitor actions on climate change at subnational level. Second, it develops a checklist for action, providing guidance on who should do what, at which scale, and on how to decarbonize our cities. And third, it facilitates policy dialogue and peer discussions, learnings across levels of government, allowing mayors, ministers to work hand in hand towards enhanced climate action. These three pillars of the program will inform the decision-making by taking into account local specificities and will allow for well-coordinated and ambitious climate action. Vice Minister, Deputy Director General, mayors, governors, ladies and gentlemen. Japan's strategy to support cities is referred to decarbonization domino. That's Tanso domino, where all the cities in Japan are surging to take bold actions to decarbonize the cities. And our new program, Territorial Approach to Climate Action and Resilience, will assist cities in their effort to drive the zero carbon transition. We hope many cities will join this program, and you can count on OECD. We will support every step on the way. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Takeuchi, for sharing the importance of the cities, how accelerate the ambition. Thank you so much. Then now I would like to invite Mr. Abe Shuichi, Governor of Nagano Prefecture, for his keynote speech. So, Governor Abe, floor is yours. よろしくお願いします。
はい、ご紹介ありがとうございます。
Thank you very much for your kind introduction.
長野県知事の安倍修一と
I
申します。
am Shuichi Abe. I'm the governor of Nagano Prefecture in Japan. So as the Nagano Prefecture's governor, and also I am speaking on behalf of the Governors Association of Japan, and I'd like to tell you about what the present situation is in Japan. So the Japanese people's lifestyle has been very much based upon four seasons. For example, growing rice and also catching fish. However, we have been always threatened by a lot of natural disasters. Therefore, we have against the natural disasters and nature, but at the same time, we have been living with the nature. So we might be known as the Nagano Winter's Olympics, and then we have a lot of forest. We have 5 national parks, and then skiing resorts, and we have 100,000 natural parks, and then we have always been enjoying very much our natural environment. In 2010, I became the governor of Nagano, and then I created this climate change section, and then we have always focused on the policies against climate change, and because we feel that global liaison is very important, and therefore in 2019, together with the G20 meeting, we decided that we were going to cooperate globally in order for the achievement of sustainable development. And then we adopted a Nagano declaration, and then we are trying to accelerate this efforts. We suffered from Typhoon Hagibis, which was number 19, and then this caused a lot of damages all over Japan, and in Nagano, our bank collapsed. And then also there was a deluge, and then a lot of people lost their house. And then this damage amounted to $2.6 billion US. And then because of this disaster, 2019 in December, we declared the climate emergency as the first prefecture in Japan, and then we have committed to the zero carbon by 2050. This declaration within the committee of Nagano, it was a unanimous decision, and it was the embodiment of all the people of Nagano. They're all toward the nature. Of course, the disaster, natural disaster, is getting worse, and of course, our efforts by 2030 is going to decide our future. So we have issued this Nagano Prefecture Zero Carbon Strategy toward 2050. So we are going to try to achieve sustainable decarbonized society alongside social change and economic development by 2030. Compared to 2010, we are committed to reduce CO2 by 60% and the reduction of final energy consumption by 40%. And also, so these are very ambitious targets that we have set ourselves. So these goals have to be achieved, and we are going to exploit all the existing technologies. And we're determined to convert to sustainable decarbonized lifestyles and support industries and initiative toward zero carbon society, together with building autonomous energy regions for regional economic circulation. Of course, our governments and subnational governments will have to cooperate in these 6 priority fields: transportation, construction, industry, renewable energy absorption, and adaptation and learning and acting. So these are the target areas where we are going to be pouring our resources. Of course, we will be introducing a lot of solar panels in order to harvest solar panels. Of course, there has been and there will be a lot of obstacles in achieving these goals, and then going forward, so in order to create the decarbonized society, everybody has to participate, businesses, academia, and everybody will have to take initiative and cooperate, and our know-hows and our powers will have to be galvanized. The National Governors Association, we have created this global warming countermeasures headquarters, and we are taking active initiatives, and then we are accelerating and also strengthening our cooperations. And by promulgating these kind of best efforts, we are going to achieve our goals. So if we go back to what we're doing in Nagano, so we have an MPO whose mechanism is to increase solar power generation by sharing the abundant solar energy of Shinshu. And then there are high school students who have presented the signature to us calling for climate emergency declaration. These kind of things symbolizes very bright future. So we are going to be supporting all these efforts. So what I would like to say at the end is that, so right now we're living, so the CO2 is increasing, but that is our own doing, and that we are the first generation to have recognized the climate change. So we need to take actions, and then we are responsible for taking actions at Nagano Prefecture, together with the Japanese government, and also together with NGO, NPOs, and then businesses. We will be creating business cooperation, and we are going to take the initiative and exert leadership. So together with this COP26, we would like to see the cooperation, the global cooperation, to be strengthened. So that concludes my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Governor Abe, for your very strong leadership from the Nagano Prefecture. And then, once I heard that because of citizens' voice, Nagano Prefecture raised up her ambition from 48% to 60% in the year of 2030. So it's a great collaboration among the local government and citizens, business, and then all partnership. So congratulations and thank you so much. And so now I would like to propose to having group photo. Sorry, it's a bit in the program, but the panelists, please remove your mask in short, and then also it's a hybrid group photo, hybrid. Sugimoto-san, you are the representative of Minister of Environment Japan, so please come.
So we take.
Yeah.
Do we have to stand up, or what is it? Yeah? Yeah, would be nicer, right? Wait.
Okay. We'll be on either side.
Without?
Yeah, without.
We have to, remove mask.
If you do not mind. Audience, please look at the camera. You are group, so group photo. It's really group photo.
Oh, very sorry. What are you doing here? No, I'm sorry, I'm just like the French.
So please look at the camera. Back side. Right.
Right there in the middle.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. ありがとうございました。Okay, then let's move to the panel discussion. Our moderator is Miss Georgia Lamberi, GCOM Coordination of Global Regional Conference. So, panel, so you, over to you. Georgia.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fujino, and good afternoon to everyone. Good afternoon, distinguished delegates, mayors, governors, and colleagues, of course, and a warm welcome to all of you, both here in presence and following us online. My name is Giorgia Rambelli, and I'm the coordinator of Global Regional Coherence at the Secretariat of the Global Covenant of Mayors for Climate and Energy, and it will be my great pleasure to moderate this panel today. I would like to thank, starting really from the very beginning, the Ministry of Environment of Japan for organizing this session, as well as IGES and, of course, OECD and ICLEI. This is really developing to be a very interesting and insightful discussion. So thank you very much for the opportunity to bringing us together. So the unprecedented scale and scope of action needed to tackle global climate change and the challenges that we are facing today will really require all hands on deck in order to deliver the scale and the scope of the measure for decarbonization and resilience that we need for our society. Not only we will have to raise our ambition and our commitment, but most of all, we need to accelerate action. And this means action across sector, across level of government, and of course, across all parts of our society. This is not only a challenge, nonetheless, it also represents a great opportunity, and an opportunity to drive forward transformation, an opportunity to really meet successfully this change like that we never had achieved before. This is true from an environmental, but also from a social and even an economic point of view. And local governments have a key role to play in this one. You heard it already from our keynote speakers earlier on today. They can not only support the delivery, but they can also lead on this in this transformation, because they are not only administrator. They can lead by example. They can inspire citizens. They are not only service providers. They can also serve the community they represent with policies and measures on the ground that can change their life on a day-to-day basis. They are also catalyzer for action and drivers of innovation, and we see every day how they implement this on the ground. So in our panel today, we will have a great opportunity to hear how cities and local governments from across the world are not only committing to reach bold targets, but also how they are on a daily basis working restlessly to implement impactful decarbonization and resilience measures. So they will share with us what they have been developing in terms of decarbonization roadmaps, local action plans, to reach climate neutrality, net zero, and these very ambitious targets, but also they will tell us how they have been inspired by their peers in these efforts, and hopefully also inspire us to go back and do better. Finally, we will also learn how they have benefited from city-to-city cooperation, collaborating with others to design plans, but not only to design them, to make sure that they can share knowledge across implementation phases, across the board, to accelerate the domino effect that we heard speaking about a few minutes ago, and to really foster impactful action. So to do all of this, of course, I will be not alone, but I have a number of distinguished panelists that will be joining us and sharing their experience, their insights, and their knowledge. We have Mayor Frank County, he's the mayor of Des Moines from the US. We have Irvan Pulungan, the governor's special envoy for climate change and coastal development of the city of Jakarta in Indonesia, connecting online. We have Kitahashi Kenji, the mayor of Kitakyushu city in Japan. We have Celia Blauel, the deputy mayor of the city of Paris in France. We are joined by Ota Noburo, the mayor of Maniwa city, also connecting with us online. And then we have Takaishi Kazuki, the Executive Director for Climate Change Policy Headquarters in Yokohama City, here with us in person on the panel. And then finally, Duong Nguyen Thi Bich, the Deputy Director of Haiphong Department of Foreign Affairs from Vietnam. So thank you very much to all of our panelists for being with us. And I would like to invite the first of our panelists to start this journey with us and to explain how bold commitment is turning into action in the city of Des Moines in the US. So Mayor County, can I invite you please to take the podium and to share your experience with us?
We okay? All right. Thank you very much, and I want to thank the Japanese for hosting this event. You know, it's so important for all of us, and I can speak from a perspective of Mayor of Des Moines, Iowa, in the middle of the United States of America. Our circumstance, I mean, a lot of people say, you're in the middle of the country. What could be your possible problem? There's no oceans around. There's no mountains. What's going on there? Well, to let you know, over the past few years, we've seen 5 occasions since 2008 when we've exceeded our 500-year flood levels, including in 2018, where we saw 10 inches of rain fall in our metro area in 3 hours. And then last summer, we saw a derecho. It's a new word for me. I just learned it. It's an inland hurricane. Flatline winds, very wide, going across the state of Iowa that passed through our city at more than 130-mile-an-hour winds. The devastation and the damage that happened in our city and across our state demonstrates what's happening. It's not just happening in coastal cities. It's not just happening in the United States. It's happening around the world. And local governments are the places that are seeing it. And as we are here to celebrate what we hope to be great outcomes at COP26, what we need is those national level leaders from the top down to see how important it is to include us at the local level and the state level, all the subnational levels, as we all come together to find solutions to our problems. Our city in Des Moines, we've committed to be carbon-free by 2050, and our electric grid to be 100%, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, zero emissions. We're doing it through wind, we're doing it through solar, and we're going to do it through storage. Quite frankly, we're already 83% there. The problem is the wind doesn't blow all the time in Des Moines. Occasionally it does, a little excessively. But it also points out that the sun doesn't always shine either, so we have to develop storage for energy to be able to do it. And this comes at a cost. So it's whether it's from national level, state level, county level, local level, private sector, it's all of us coming together to find the solutions for our businesses, for our government, for our future. And I've got to tell you, it's all of us working together. And I want to thank the ministry in Japan for working together and with the Biden administration coming together and stating we are supporting subnational inclusion in all the discussions, not only out of this COP, but as we go along, as we look for solutions, we share best ideas, best practices, and we look for financing mechanisms to make it happen. This is the kind of work that has to happen, has been pointed out by some of our previous speakers, that happens every single day at the local government level. You know, it's not partisanship, this is science. We're seeing a climate emergency, unlike the history of humanity has ever seen. And it's going to take that collective action for all of us to come together to find the solutions so that future generations will enjoy the quality of life that we've enjoyed during our lifetimes. But it's going to have to start today. We have to move beyond plans and move to action. And we have to do it not just in Des Moines. We have to do it in every city in my state, every city in our country, every city around the world. And again, teaming with all levels of government to make this happen. We could talk for hours, we could talk for days, but let's move to action. And I want to thank everybody for being here and participating, and let's have our voices be loud. And if anybody's going to hear us when we sing, let's sing louder all the time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mayor County, for not only reminding us of the urgency, but also the willingness that local governments really have to team up with all the other level of government to deliver impactful action. Unfortunately, Mayor County has to leave us for another engagement now, but it was truly inspiring. And thank you for your time and for sharing your experience. So we continue our journey to discover more and more how cities are not only talking about their targets and their climate action, but really walking the talk truly. And we go now to Indonesia, and I would like to give the floor to Irvan Pulungan. Mr. Pulungan, hello, can you hear us?
Hello, Georgia. Can you hear me?
I think just a moment.
Yes, we can hear you. So yeah.
Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Peace be upon us. Good evening from Jakarta. Honorable Deputy Director General Sagawasan, Deputy Secretary General Mr. Takeuchi Yoshiki, Governor of Nagano, Prefecture Mr. Abe Suichi, city leaders, and fellow ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Jakarta Capital City Government, I would like to convey my gratitude to the Ministry of Environment of Japan to hosting this forum to share our effort in halving CO2 emissions. As all we know, the world is urbanizing, like mentioned before. It is projected that by 2030, 70% of the world population will be living in the cities. Cities will be produce nearly 8 billion metric ton of carbon dioxide per year. So I would like to convey the time to act, like being campaigned by Governor Koike of Tokyo. And we are really officially in red spot right now if we are not doing anything. 1.5 degrees Celsius of global warming within 2 decades. This is why halving CO2 emission by the year 2030 is very important for us target needs to be accelerated in every level of government, from national level to subnational level government. This is also mean that the choice of city leaders make today will shape the build of environment for decades to come. Along with those facts, cities are responsible to reduce global carbon emission by doing action in local level. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Jakarta does several action and initiatives in regulating, governing, and developing a system to build a pathway in achieving zero carbon cities and decarbonization. Please allow me to extend our gratitude to IGES, Japan, who is assisted Jakarta comprehensively to develop a long-term strategy to achieve DKI Jakarta low carbon society in 2050. This scientific document becomes the primary scientific sources material in enacting of our two following in innovation in Jakarta. Jakarta is the first local government in Indonesia who treats climate crisis as real crisis and disaster. We are used this term climate crisis to sound the alarm of our stakeholder. So all of us have similar sense of urgency. This is represented in our by internalization of climate action in our regional strategic activities. It means climate action have secured budget for implementation in Jakarta. Secondly, we are finally have low carbon development plan, which is consists of climate mitigation and adaptation action, and the internalization of the city development planning and mechanism, which comply with Paris Agreement and is an active contribution to Indonesia national determined contribution. So thank you, IGES, for helping us to achieve this milestone. The Honorable City Leader, in reference to what the UN Secretary General Guterres mentioned in UN General Assembly, the climate alarm has rung not only at the fever pitch, but also not stopping. This shall awaken all of us from our sleep, and I believe we need to start doing what we could to reduce our own emission by regulating what we can regulate in local level. So learning from that experience from Jakarta, it is important to negotiate and put soft diplomacy to achieve vertical integration and policy making in action planning between national government and subnational government, because this is how we can reduce emission, we can achieve decarbonization target, and how we can adapt to climate change by working together hand in hand with all stakeholders in national and subnational level. Thank you. That's all from Jakarta. Thank you. Arigato gozaimashita.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pulungan, for your intervention and for reminding us once again of the incredible contribution that local action can make to also achieving the objective of the nationally determined contribution, and also for bringing forward the concept of the cost of inaction. I think this is something that we always have in the back of our mind, but maybe we don't try to monetize it enough. The cost of inaction, the cost of action need to come together in order to deliver really truthfully impactful strategy on the floor. But we go on now and we continue our journey of discovery, and we learn a little bit more about how it is possible, for example, to turn industrial heritage and in a difficult maybe context, not only from the strain of climate change, but also from the type of growth that happened in the past, into a true asset and into a real opportunity for sustainable and climate responsible future for our cities. So it's my pleasure to now give the floor to Kitahashi Kenji, the mayor of Kitakyushu. Mayor, can you hear us? Hello, Mr. Mayor.
Hello, everyone. I am Kitahashi Kenji, and I am the mayor of the city of Kitakyushu in Japan. I am honored to have this opportunity to speak at the COP26 Japan Pavilion today. I would like to talk about some of Kitakyushu's initiatives. Kitakyushu developed as one of Japan's leading industrial cities. However, along with this rapid industrial development, our city suffered from severe pollution. We succeeded in overcoming this pollution through a collaborative relationship between the city's residents, businesses, and the government. Kitakyushu has utilized its experience in overcoming pollution in the development of a number of advanced environmental policies. Our achievements have been applauded in both Japan and overseas, and we have been recognized as a model city for a number of different projects and programs. On the basis of these achievements, Kitakyushu declared its intentions to become a zero-carbon city in October 2020. We have set a target to reduce greenhouse gas emissions in the city by at least 47% by fiscal 2030 in order to achieve our goal of net zero emissions by 2050. I believe that the industrial city of Kitakyushu's initiatives in working with business to promote decarbonization in relation to energy and innovation will be a good model for other cities in Asia. One specific initiative I would like to mention is the Kitakyushu model for 100% renewable energy. In this model, first, all of the city's public facilities will be powered by renewable energy. Then, we will promote the spread of renewable energy through third-party power purchase agreements and expand its use throughout the city as well as in other parts of Japan and overseas. Kitakyushu has taken advantage of our experience in overcoming pollution in the development of a number of international projects. In 2010, we established the Asian Center for a Low-Carbon Society, which has implemented many projects in collaboration with other cities in Asia. With the cooperation of Kitakyushu, Phnom Penh, the capital of Cambodia, has become one of a few cities in Asia where tap water is drinkable. This is called Phnom Penh Miracle. Our relationship with Haiphong City in Vietnam in the environmental field is a typical example. Kitakyushu and Haiphong became sister cities in 2014 and have formed a powerful partnership, especially in the environmental field. In this context, we will immediately try to deploy the Kitakyushu model for 100% renewable energy in Haiphong. We aim to promote decarbonization with the support of the Ministry of the Environment. This will also help with the creation of new businesses to promote the use of renewable energy. We hope that these initiatives will serve as a model for the development of eco-friendly industrial parks throughout Vietnam. Kitakyushu will continue to provide support in finding solutions to issues such as decarbonization by deploying our environmental technologies overseas. By providing this support, we hope to be able to contribute to the successful achievement of the goals of the SDGs around the world. Thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you very much for that insightful presentation. I think it's really interesting to see how through sustainable, integrated and multi-level action, we can really strive for a real win-win when it comes to economic development, but also climate action. And a little bit of a hint already about also the city-to-city cooperation aspect, of which we will hear more about very soon. So now I would like to continue our journey of discovery. We have been already through different continents, and we are now coming back to Europe, where it's my pleasure to give the floor and ask Ms. Blauer to please take the podium and to tell us a little bit more about the strategy and the wonderful targets and goals that the City of Paris has in becoming climate neutral, resilient and fair.
Well, thank you very much for your introduction, and thank you again for, my mask. For your invitation. It's a real pleasure for me to share with you Paris' commitment towards climate change today. A real pleasure also to see the president of ICLEI, that is an important actor in favoring the cooperation between cities and making our specific voice heard, because you said it, local authorities have a specific role towards climate change. We know for long our responsibility in this change, the way our 50% of the population living in cities, having like 70% of the GHG emission. But we also, for a long time now, are acting to change that, because cities, local places are the places that we are not only setting targets, we're actually translating them into action and moving for a very long time now to set a new path towards that new sustainable society. That's actually the case of Paris. These are like 15 years now, more than 15 years that Paris is acting to face climate change. And I would say that we took an important step in our policies by 2015 when we hosted the COP, because we had by that time a new climate action plan, the third one, and it was kind of a new way of addressing this question. The specificity was that we wanted to translate the Paris Agreement into concrete action at the local level, meaning looking at 2015 carbon neutral target, obviously, but addressing as well mitigation as adaptation, not to forget that specific issue that emerged by 2015. The idea was also for us to look at all the GHG emission, because sometimes in city you look at energy, or you look at mobility, or you look at something, but we wanted to see all of the GHG emission, including the airplane emission from the people of Paris, which is challenging, I would say. And then the third pillar of this roadmap is that we wanted to take on board the maximum of the stakeholders of the territory, because we can have the best roadmap ever. If we don't get the people on board, from citizens to big companies, we won't make it. And this is now how we have to create that global society dynamic. So just to illustrate really rapidly what it means for us at the local level in our everyday action, that means, of course, sustainable mobility plan to reduce the individual car within our city, transform the city, support a new economy also dedicated to this. I guess the symbol of it in Paris is, you may have seen it, the river bank now that is now dedicated to people rather than cars, which makes a lot of people shouting, but everybody loves it. I think right now you have to go there if you go to Paris. Second would be the energy program. We are aiming to a 100 renewable energy city, meaning we are developing our own programs, solar panels, geothermy, etc. We are more and more taking citizens on board with participatory financement of this energy supplier. And tomorrow we're going to build a new Paris company to be able to invest beyond the administrative borders of the city, because we know we won't be 100% energy renewable on our own. We need to have new partnership between urban and rural area. I could go on building retrofits already, like something like 80,000 social and private units that have been retrofitted, but we have to go really, really far beyond. I can also talk about food plan. What I want to tell is that what we do in Paris, we look at today and tomorrow. Today is about reducing air pollution, it's about health, it's about new local jobs, but it's also for tomorrow mitigating our GHG emission, and having a future, sustainable future for the future generation. Let me just say 2 more words about adaptation. That became a big issue for us. We're not on a coastal area, as the mayor was saying just before me, but we have also climate extreme event that can occur in Paris. I would say mainly heat waves and floods. That's why we've started a big urban transformation program, still obviously preserving historical patrimony of Paris, but if I had to sum up, would mean less concrete, more water, more green, to completely transform the city and have that natural refreshment of the city, to be able to have health issue to be faced, but also infrastructure issue that we will have toward this climate extreme weather events. And the last word would be again on citizens. This is the biggest issue we have right now, is to take everybody on board. All humanity is facing the same issue, actually, and if we don't make it, we don't make like a majority of people stepping in, it's going to be really complicated. But that's actually the most tricky question we have, because you cannot decide people, you have to get in. So this is something we are trying to use all the means, all the tools we have. We share, we speak, we took them on board in writing that climate action plan, in implementing it. We just opened an Academy for Climate in Paris, which is a place where everybody can get in and join in. So that's one of the biggest issues we have now, and I guess we have to coordinate and cooperate a lot between cities, because together we'll find the clue quicker and faster. So again, I would conclude on the same words than the president of ICLEI. Stop setting goals. We have now just to be focusing on implementation. Local authorities have shown that nothing is impossible. We have the means, we still have to invent, but we have no excuse. We have no more excuses not to act and to transform. So again, thank you very much for your invitation.
Thank you so much, Ms. Blauwel, for sharing the vision and the actions, of course, of the city of Paris. I think this ambitious measures such as reaching 100% renewable, this urban transformation for Paris that you're bringing forward, really have a strategic vision that will be not only looking at today and tomorrow, but they also show how a vision is a vision only if it's inhabited by the citizens and by the people. So not just an idea, but something concretely on the ground that is designed for their need, for their willingness, taking them on board. So wonderful, wonderful outlook to the future for the city of Paris. Thank you very much. So we continue now to learn a little bit more about how local governments are really implementing action, local action on the ground to implement their vision and their targets in regards to climate change and tackling it. And we go to Japan, where it is my pleasure now to introduce Ota Noburo. He's the mayor of Maniwa City. I think he's connected with us remotely.
My name is Noburo, the mayor of Maniwa City in Japan. 瀬川新官各都市の皆さん、この会が素晴らしい成果を
Well, Ms. Segawa and everybody who is attending this meeting, I'd like to pray for the success of this meeting. So I'd like to tell you about what Maniwa is doing.
It's a great opportunity to introduce my city. Nice to meet all of attendees. My name is Noburo, the mayor of Maniwa City in Japan. Maniwa is a city on the north side of Okayama Prefecture in West Japan. Okayama Prefecture is located between Tokyo and Hiroshima. The area of Maniwa City is 828 square kilometers, which is about 5 times as large as the city of Glasgow. The population is about 44,000, about 7% of Glasgow. About 80% of the areas of Maniwa City is forest, and it is famous all over Japan at the time with the circular economy zone centered on wood and the biomass power plants. Looking at Maniwa's economy, about 30% of the shipment value of manufactured goods is timber-related industry. There are 20 lodging companies, 3 raw timber markets, 30 sawmills, 1 finished product market, and 2 wood biomass power plants. In this way, a high-quality timber supply chain has been built, and you can have all the materials you need to build a house in the city. The Manua wood biomass power plant has made Manua famous nationwide. It started operation in 2015. This power plant generates electricity, use wood that has not been used before and wood that has been discarded. Currently, power plant's annual sales is 2.3 billion yen, about 20 million US dollars, of which 1.4 billion yen is used for buying fuel wood. It's grown into profitable business at the moment. This creates new value for these timbers, creating jobs and reducing fossil fuel consumption. As explained, the characteristic of Manua is it's built a sustainable and circular economy in the region, which is in line with the OECD's philosophy. As its iconic building and as a new landmark, Green Mall Hilton opened in July this year. This building was constructed with Manua's cross-laminated timber and designed by the Japanese architect Ken Kumar, who also designed the Victoria and Albert Dundee Museum of Design in Scotland. This building was originally constructed in Tokyo as a pavilion to promote CLT and Japanese timber to the world during the Tokyo Olympics and Paralympics period. But it now has returned and relocated to its birthplace Manua. Greenville Hilton presents interaction of natural and cultural resources between the city and regional areas. It is a hope of Manua City that we will position this Greenville Hilton as a base of disseminating initiatives to build a sustainable society, and I will actively work to realize carbon neutrality. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you very much for bringing forward the importance of circular approaches in terms of respecting and preserving our natural resources, the same way that we also need to respect and protect, of course, the future of our communities. It's very interesting to see how this can all come together through integrated approaches. Of course, all of the actions that we've been speaking about until now, and we heard it several times, cannot be implemented alone. And the next speaker, who I will invite to join us on the podium, Mr. Takahashi Kazuaki from the city of Yokohama. Together with the city of Yokohama, they have been actively supporting the creation of roadmap for decarbonization and looking into how this can be done in collaboration with the national government. So he can tell us a little bit more about Yokohama, of course, and also how these multi-level governance initiatives and action can come to life to support climate action. Please.
Thank you very much, Georgia. And good afternoon, and good morning, good evening, everyone. I'm Takahashi from Climate Change Policy Headquarters, City of Yokohama. It's my great honor to speak here today and appreciate this excellent preparation of the meeting by ICLEI, IGES, OECD, and Ministry of the Environment, Japan. Today, I will introduce our actions as a zero-carbon city. Can you put the slide, please? Okay, thank you. So next, please. Here shows an example of our activities, which is about the inter-regional cooperation effort. Since Yokohama has huge population, about 4 million people, and does not have much open space, it is difficult to generate a large amount of renewable energy. We estimate it is possible to generate only 10% of our consumption in Yokohama. That's why we signed agreements with 13 municipalities in Tohoku, northeast region of Japan that have a high potential of renewable energy. What's happening? Freeze. Since climate action should be conducted by various local governments and innovation is needed for carbon neutrality, we think that city-to-city cooperation is a key issue to achieve zero carbon by creating solutions which leads taking actions. As domestic actions in Japan, we collaborate with many cities and national governments. Yokohama is participating as a member in a conference set up by the government to achieve zero carbon. In February this year, Yokohama as a chairperson launched a council of municipalities aiming for zero carbon. And the council submitted a proposal to the national government for decarbonization through collaboration between the national and local governments. Now, 199 municipalities are participating in this council. As international actions, we are promoting bilateral cooperation with overseas cities. This shows cooperation with Bangkok Metropolitan Administration, BMA. Under the support framework of JICA, the Climate Change Master Plan for Bangkok was formulated in collaboration with Yokohama City and Bangkok. As a next step, we hope to further strengthen cooperation with Bangkok toward carbon neutrality via the co-formulation of a concrete decarbonization project in collaboration with the government of Japan. We also have cooperated with Da Nang City, Vietnam. Through support from Ministry of the Environment of Japan, we asked for the formulation of the environmental 10 years plan of Da Nang City. As a next step, we would like to strengthen cooperation between the two cities toward the formulation of concrete projects that utilize the JCM scheme by the government of Japan. To build a multilateral networks, City of Yokohama has held the Asia Smart City Conference for the past 10 years. In this conference, we aim to promote partnership among cities and related international institutions in order to achieve smart and sustainable urban growth in Asia and Pacific. We just held the 10th conference last week on 28th October and summarized the results of the conference as Yokohama Declaration. In this declaration, we described the realization of carbon neutrality through city-to-city cooperation for the sustainable growth. To summarize, Yokohama has focused on city-to-city cooperation for decarbonization domestically and internationally. We hope to work together with you to make carbon neutrality true. We also hope you to visit Japan after COVID-19. We welcome you. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Katsuaki, for your presentation and for sharing how you are really benefiting from international and domestic cooperation and how much that can support cities in learning from each other and to really be inspired and be more ambitious even. Thank you also for telling us about the establishment of the Council for Local Government Decarbonization Implementation. I think it's impressive to see that 199 like-minded local governments managed to come together to really further and foster action together with your national government. I think it's really impressive to see how you are putting really multi-level governance and climate action into practice. So congratulations once again. But speaking of collaboration, you probably have seen already a little bit in my introduction, but also in the previous presentation, that the Japanese cities seem to be quite effective and quite prompt at collaborating with other cities all over the world. And we have one of these twin cities as our next speaker coming up. So it's my pleasure to give the floor to Dung Nguyen, the Deputy Director of Haiphong Department of Foreign Affairs. Can you hear us? Hello, good afternoon. Wait, just okay.
So, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's my honor to speak from Haiphong, Vietnam. Haiphong is the largest seaport city in the north of Vietnam. The favorable geographical location is one of the reasons that makes Haiphong being one of the biggest industrial, service and commercial centers of the country. Its expected rapid growth certainly goes with the increasing of the driving forces such as the transport demand or industrial activities, etc., which relate to the increase of CO2 emission. As you may know, the government of Vietnam also commits to achieve the net zero carbon target by 2050 as a local government in Vietnam based on the national strategies and plans. Haiphong also has formulated various action plans on green growth and reductions of CO2 emission to achieve low carbon city targets. We have the action plan to implement the national green growth strategy, and we have the action plan to implement the Paris Agreement, etc. In the implementation of these plans, different task categories have been put in practices. Raise people's awareness, identify growth criteria, indicators, integrate these criteria indicators in the city's middle and long-term master plan for socio-economic development or in the specific sectoral plans. Study green models such as Green Port or Green Town. Renovate technology or encourage application of high-tech green technology in production in order to reduce CO2 emission. Promote using economical energy and resources friendly environmental projects. Evaluate current production plans to make appropriate adjustments to reduce CO2 emission, especially enhance international cooperation. International cooperation has been identified as an effective channel to support the achievement of the city's target. Over the past time, Haiphong has built up partnerships with numerous regional organizations, non-governmental organizations, local government organizations, and government agencies from Japan, South Korea, the USA, etc., to work on the subjects. The cooperation has been realized in practice with various forms of activities, which includes policy development, research and study, pilot production, high-tech transfer, human resource training, sharing lessons and experiences. The cooperation relationships between Haiphong and Kitakyushu was first established in 2009. and it has officially become sister cities in 2014. Since then, our two cities have actively exchanged and coordinated in the fields of economic sector, culture, healthcare, education, and environment. We have experienced different valuable joint projects which create positive contribution to both long-term direction as well as a specific technical solution for Haiphong on the way towards green growth and low-carbon city. Within the framework of sister city relationship with Kitakyushu supported Haiphong to develop the Green Growth Promotion Plan in 2015 with 15 pilot-specific projects in the area of waste treatment, green transportation, energy saving, and green production. Currently, we are working on the development of eco-industrial park model in Haiphong with the participation of 2 famous industrial parks in the city. The objective of this project is to achieve zero emission in industrial estates in Haiphong through transferring experience and know-how of Kitakyushu on 100% renewable energy installation in all public buildings and eco-town management, and through conducting feasibility studies of low-carbon technologies in the eco-industrial parks, including smart energy system, renewable energy, energy recovery from wastewater, and energy savings. For the future, we will focus on implementing the solution activities set out in our Blue Action Plan. International cooperation remains playing an important role for experiencing sharing, lesson learned, and investment resource, as well as regional and global joint efforts projects. In this process, we will certainly continue to work hand in hand with Kitakyushu City to realize zero carbon city. That's our story to share today. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much for this interesting experience and for reflecting once again upon the importance of city-to-city cooperation and how by being inspired by others we can also improve ourselves. I also wanted to highlight 2 points that were brought forward. This idea of evaluation and stock taking of the baseline where we are starting from, looking into our plans. We love to talk about success stories, and today indeed that's what we have done, but it's also very important to take stock of the mistakes that we have made and how we can improve. And I think city-to-city cooperation can really also give a hand, let's say, when it comes to identify good ideas, but also things that maybe should not be repeated if given the chance. And then finally, also to reminding us of the importance is continue to learn, to research, and to test, and to try, and the power the cities have in really being truthfully pilots when it comes to experimenting new solutions on the ground. So with all of this, and speaking about experimentation and speaking about solutions that have been put in place and key ingredients to bring forward our strategies, I would like to ask my panelists if they have a key ingredient, something that specifically they feel they would like to share with cities in the audience, both online or here in person. What should they consider as one of the things that if you knew better, you wake up today knowing what you know now, instead of when you started your journey to become climate neutral, for example, in Paris? Is there anything that you would like to suggest to colleagues really to keep in mind when they are starting this process?
Never, I don't know how to say it in English, never stop. I mean, like, if you have an idea and everybody tells you it's a bad idea, but you're convinced it's a good idea, just go and go and go until it's implemented. That's the only thing I could say. And invent, create, and I mean, it's all about, to me, it's all about creating something completely new that we didn't know before. So it's just like, allow yourself to be a bit crazy and go.
I think that's a very good advice. We talk about changing this paradigm all the time, right? But I think indeed we are in a very unconventional, a very, very special situation right now. And as we said at the beginning, it is daunting and challenging, but it's also a great opportunity to invent new things. So absolutely, I think go crazy sounds like a very good suggestion, and trying to really lever our creativity. Anything that you would like to share from the experience of Yokohama?
Actually, I really agree with Go Crazy, as you mentioned. We understand that the carbon neutrality is very hard to be achieved, so we need to create solutions. And for creating solutions, we need so much ideas and with various stakeholders. So, in my opinion, it's very useful that we have knowledge sharing, and based on this knowledge, we have created solutions for the carbon neutrality. And after the creating idea, go crazy.
Go crazy. That's a good one, I think, to conclude. Yeah.
That's all.
I think here, of course, we are in a panel today with an audience that is all very much aware about the difficulties that climate change is bringing about and the impact that it has on environmental, but also on the society from an economic and social point of view. I'm sure that even in your cities, unfortunately, you had to come to terms with probably some part of the society or some of the stakeholders that might not have been always buying in immediately into your visions. So can you share maybe an example of how you have dealt with that? I heard you were mentioning that you, for example, co-created the climate plan. Is that one of the things that you think it's helpful? Anything that you want to share in bringing on board these more reluctant, let's say, stakeholders?
We had a lot of reluctant people, if you say so, in Paris. I mean, the best example would be the riverbank experience, that for 2 years we experienced like really hard complaints. I don't know how to say it properly in English, so I'll do that. But we have, as politicians, I think, to have a mix of sharing the issue, sharing with the maximum of people, but at the same time, some of the time taking a responsibility and push it. Because if Mayor Hidalgo in 2014 had listened to all the people, especially even people really friends with her saying, you shouldn't do that, we won't have made half of the things we've made about climate issues. You have to believe, I mean, at one point you have to believe and go, and people are sometimes, and most of the time, convinced when it's down. So you have to go in that crisis moment with sharing a maximum, but also being convinced and go straight to the target. So it's a balance to find.
Thank you. Any experience from Yokohama on dealing maybe with more of a challenging situation with some part of the society that might have not immediately convinced that it was the right thing to do? Or maybe you're lucky, everyone is already convinced.
Usually it's very hard to make a consensus with very stakeholders, but since we have so serious climate issues and international society, carbon neutrality is getting a main issue. So the situation is changed compared to that in a few years ago. So now I really understand that the various...
Can I ask you to take off your mask? I think it's easier to hear you.
Can you hear me clearly?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, yeah. So, yeah. What did I say?
Still with stakeholders?
Stakeholders, yeah, okay.
Sorry,
so much.
I interrupted the train of thoughts.
Yeah, so now it's very, the situation is very different compared to that in a few years ago. So, but now the topic is about how to achieve carbon neutral in each section. So we need to think together with various stakeholders. That's the point for making consensus at this point.
Thank you very much. Maybe I have one more question. We talked about collaboration with the national and subnational level. We talked about stakeholders, reluctant, less reluctant, the importance of citizens in designing our ambition and in implementing and living it. How about within your local government? Sometimes there is a little bit of a challenge in bringing together different sectors, different departments. We have plenty of plans sometimes, and they might not always speak 100% to each other. It's really difficult from an administrator point of view also to bring together all these different bits and pieces. Anything that you would like to share with our audience once again, starting to approach this process on how to bring everyone on the same page?
I think it's the same than with citizens. You have to share issues, you have to work together. But that climate plan that I have here has been voted by all the political forces in Paris, so from the right to the left. I don't know if they all read it from the very first page to the last one, because there are some ambition things that then when you go to concrete action, they just wake up like, hey, what's that come from? But this was voted because I think even political world knows we are now facing future. They have responsibility to take, So in France, setting the target is not a problem anymore. Implementation is something else to make everybody go on board, because implementation again asks for a little bit of courage to face some lobby, to change things as they always be in business as usual. So this is still complicated, and so we have to always share, and build the way of taking people together.
And of course, we also heard in the previous days talking about the amount of investment that would also be needed to implement all of this. So I think political drive is essential, at least to row into the same direction and to try to acquire not only the financial investment needed, but also the resources in terms of capacity. So I think indeed it's a tough job, but we are lucky that there is someone crazy, like we said before, coaching you to really bring this forward. Anything that you would like to share from your experience at Yokohama?
I understand that it's very Yokohama City, but as you mentioned that political leadership is very important also in Yokohama. Diet is meaning that it's held a rule for the climate change action. So this political leadership brings consensus within the city much easier. So the point is that climate change effect brings various kind of sections like agriculture, fisheries, and urban and social life. And so this kind of situation makes various sections to be serious about the climate change effect. So, but that's the point is, as you say, share and act.
Thank you. So it's definitely a long journey to bring together all of this process, but it's great that many cities and many local governments all over the world are embarking in such a journey. So thank you very much for indulging me in this little discussion, and of course to all of our speakers for the great presentations and for the great insights that they shared with us today on what you're doing day by day in practice to really reach these targets that we have been so much discussing about in our implementation of the Paris Agreement. So thank you once again to our panelists. And now, please, yes, of course, a big round of applause. And of course, also to our panelists online, absolutely. Thank you to all of them for their contribution. It's now my pleasure to give the floor to Gino van Begin, is the Secretary General of ICLEI Local Government for Sustainability, who will have the very hard job to bring together a few concluding remarks and some closing points after such a fruitful and insightful discussion. So Gino, I welcome to the podium, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Georgia. And first of all, I would like to say a big hello and a big thank you to the panelists that are here, Celia Blauel and our colleague from Yokohama. Two cities we are working very closely with, so it's a pleasure to see you here. I would also like to extend my gratitude and my thanks to all of the panelists who have spoken here today in this area, as well as from abroad virtually. Thank you, first of all, to the Ministry of Japan for inviting me and inviting ICLEI to be with you. I have a feeling that since now 5-6 years, we are a standing invited guest organization to the COP Pavilion of Japan in each of these COPs, so it is great to be here again. Thank you so much for your invitation. Let me start by thanking indeed the Ministry of Environment of Japan and the OECD, the Organization for Economic Development and Cooperation, as well as IGES, the Global Environmental Strategies Institute, with whom we work as well very closely. Thank you for giving me the task, the honorable task, to try to make a summary of the discussion that we have had here today. But let me first start by saying that we at ICLEI, we have a long history of supporting local governments in Japan, and we are very pleased to work closely with the local governments in Japan, as well as with the other levels of government in Japan, and in particular also with IGES. We are pleased also to have actually renewed our partnership with the OECD, and through the OECD and with the OECD we have also worked very closely with Japan on and with a number of local governments in Japan. Ladies and gentlemen, we as ICLEI, we stand for achieving a resilient, zero-emission, climate-neutral future. It is a commitment that the entire ICLEI network has made in April this year at our last recent membership gathering, which was virtual, but we are a network of more than 2,500 cities that have committed to this particular target. We align with science that is essential to achieve climate neutrality in all the governmental operations as well as in the communities of our jurisdictions at the latest by 2050, and to halve the emissions by 2030. We have set up a number of programs to help our members to achieve these targets. We have an ICLEI Green Climate Cities program, we have a ICLEI Climate Neutrality Framework program and reporting system, we have initiatives on circularity and on food, we have an initiative on cities with nature, and it is our hope but also commitment to combine these various areas holistically to address the issues of climate change. And therefore, we have been very pleased, I have been very pleased to hear here today so many examples of cities in Japan and outside of Japan where there is a political commitment and a practical implementation in all of these areas together. It's not just about mitigating and reducing and halving our emissions, but it is also looking into the other areas and sectors to achieve a resilient future for our citizens and for our urban areas as such. So I was very pleased to hear, obviously, from the city of our current ICLEI president, Des Moines in the United States of America, that he is moving with his actors in the city to move towards carbon neutrality in the energy provision of the city very soon. And great, of course, to hear, Celia, the progress that has been made in Paris with regard to the Climate Action Plan. I very well remember when it was approved and adopted in Paris, and it's great to hear the advancement that you have made in terms of the implementation of the action plan. It was and it is an ambitious plan, and it's really great to see that you are moving there. But also the examples you have given around your infrastructure retrofitting progress that is ongoing, the green mobility, the river banks, obviously, but most importantly, I think the work that has been done in Paris to bring the citizens and the various stakeholders around the table. And as you said, it is not an easy task, but from the outside at least, we can see that in Paris that has been an essential element of the success that you are achieving here. And Yokohama, thank you so much for explaining the activities that are ongoing in Yokohama. We and our ICLEI office work very closely with Yokohama in various of these areas that you have mentioned. Thank you so much for the efforts that you're undertaking with regard to climate change tackling. I felt also very inspired by the fact that the Japanese government is working so closely with the Japanese governments. It is indeed an unprecedented model, I think we can say, to engage with local governments, with your prefectures in Japan for the implementation of the second phase of the Paris Agreement. And I should say that here is something that we, from an ICLEI perspective, we have been, may I say, try to influence, to advocate the parties to look on what is going on the ground, to bring those actions, those strategies into the national plans for mitigation and resilience, and to bring this to the table here at those COPs. We have been doing this since, I think, 2005, with, of course, an enormous uptake towards 2009 in Copenhagen, and then in 2015 in Paris. And in doing so, we were very happy that in Paris, when the Paris Agreement was approved, the recognition of the role of subnational government is clearly inscribed within the Paris Agreement, and is actually requested for nations to work with the other levels of government. And it's therefore great to see how the Japanese government is taking on that commitment, is trying to, with its jurisdictions, to achieve the, in this case now, the second implementation of the Paris Agreement. But also great to see how the Japanese government is supporting other Japanese local governments to reach out in city-to-city cooperation projects with so many cities that we have heard here in this panel in South Asia. South Asia is one of the fast-growing economic regions, as well as one of the fast-growing population regions. So reaching out, supporting also that reach out from the local level to the other local levels in those countries is absolutely fantastic and very, very much needed. And I was delighted to hear from the various panelists here the return on that, and how they felt that the exchange of experiences between Japan and their own jurisdictions have been beneficial. I'm not sure, Georgia, if I have covered everything here, but let me just say that, again, it is really encouraging to see the flourishment of so much cooperation amongst local governments around the world. In this case now, in particular in Asia, it's something that is absolutely needed. We will never be able to keep us on the 1.5 pathway if not all actors, not all levels of government start to work with one another. And therefore, again, I think that this session here has been able to demonstrate that progress is ongoing on that level, and I think we and you may be very proud to send that message from here in Glasgow to the next door where the parties are meeting. So thank you very much again for all the good work that you have been doing. Thank you again to the Ministry of Japan for inviting ICLEI. Thank you, IGES and the OECD, for partnering with us in this session. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Gino. Thank you very much, Mr. Van Begin. I think you did a great job at covering, if not all, most of it. The beautiful thing of this is that we will have new opportunities to come together and to continue looking what are the next steps. So even if anything was missing, of course, hopefully we will have a chance to continue discussing about this very soon all together, and to really look more into the progress that both at national and local level cities in Japan and all over the world are making. So with that, I would like to conclude our session. I want to thank everyone, our speakers, our keynotes, our colleagues for the final remarks, and everyone that has been joining us online. Thank you very much for your presentation, your insight on behalf of the Global Covenant of Mayors. I also want to thank very much the Ministry of Japan, of course, once again, and ICLEI and IGES and OECD for inviting us to be here and to moderate this session. We look forward to continuing working together and to collaborating and hearing more from you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Georgia, for your great coordination. And it's a professional work. And thank you so much. And also thank you, Celia, and then Takahashi-san for the panel discussion. Also online speakers, and of course, Gino for the, you are not only the closing remark, but also concluding remarks. Yeah, you cover all the things. So let's be crazy, and then let's do it for the 1.5 degree of sustainable society economy. So thank you very much for joining us, and thank you very much for all the participants. Thank you.